2 cups of brown sugar, half a cup of salt. So we used coarse kosher salt, and we used dark brown sugar or Demerara sugar. We're using a bullseye barbecue sauce, and we're putting in a cup?
Yep, about a cup.
Cup of barbecue sauce. So this is going to be the brine for our smoked salmon that we're doing. We're making 3 different flavors in the smoker, this will be a barbecue flavor. We're also making a bourbon.
Maple bourbon, and then
Maple bourbon.
and a honey chili one.
This will be
Half a cup of water.
half a cup of water, and we're gonna mix everything up. So we're just weighing the salmon. Looks like we have 1.2 kilograms of salmon pieces in there. So that's Chinook salmon that Chris caught off the west coast in the summertime. And those pieces are just like trim belly pieces and that kind of thing. Okay, so we had this fish in the freezer in a Ziploc bag, and we're just gonna give it a rinse. It did thaw in the fridge for a couple days, and now we're just gonna give it a rinse and then cut it into the size that we want it for the smoking. So it's just little pieces, however big I guess you want to make them.
We like little nuggets.
Little nuggets, or you can do strips.
But yeah, you can see it's all just trim.
Yeah, lots of just trim pieces, so stuff that you might otherwise just waste. It's kind of a good use for them. Okay, so some of our salmon, some different sizes. Thicknesses, so you can see the difference in thickness. Some of them are quite thin, some of them are thicker, so they're gonna take up the brine differently. So some of them might be more tough and chewy, more like jerky, which is totally fine for us. Okay, so we've prepared all the salmon pieces, and we're just going to get our brine ready, and we're gonna put the salmon into the brine that we prepared earlier. So the whole purpose of this brine and this process, we're doing a hot smoking process of this fish. So the brine with the salt and the sugar is meant to pull the moisture. The salt will preserve the fish, pull the moisture out of the fish, and the sugar will of course sweeten it, add some flavor as well. So, and also the barbecue sauce that we added. So we're just gonna put some brine in, put a layer of salmon, put some more brine in, another layer of salmon. So you just wanna kind of layer the fish in with the brine, just so that every piece is nice and covered, so that the salt and the sugar can work its magic. And once this container is full, we'll fill it up with the remaining brine, and then we'll cover it and refrigerate it for 16 hours. So we'll do that now. And you can stir it part way through that process. So for the 16 hours, you want to make sure that the pieces are all getting covered with the sauce and it's all distributed evenly. So you can always stir it up partway through that 16-hour brining process as well. Looks good. All right, looks good. So we're gonna cover it up now. So we have a lid for this one, and we'll make some room in the fridge. Okay, so we're just gonna put the salmon into the fridge now with a lid, and then it will start the brining process for 16 hours or so. This is one of our previous batches we started yesterday. This is honey
and chilies.
Honey with red chilies.
Yeah.
So this one is actually drying right now. So what you want to do before you smoke salmon is have it drying in the open air so that it starts to form a tacky surface called a pellicule. A pellicle, I think. So that will allow the smoke to stick to the salmon. If it has a tacky, sort of a sticky surface, the smoke will stick better. But if it doesn't have that surface, you might not be able to smoke it. It might not turn out as you want. So that's that batch. We also have another batch in here, which is our maple bourbon flavor. So
That one has a little bit of cinnamon in too, so that one's gonna be good.
yeah, so we've got 3 different batches of smoked salmon going. Okay, so we're here and we've finished the brining process of the salmon. It was in the fridge brining for probably close to 20 hours at this point. So we're now going to rinse the pieces of salmon just with some water to get all that extra salt and liquid off of them. And then after that, we're going to dry the salmon. So at this point, the salt in the brine should have taken most of the moisture out of the salmon, so it should be fairly dry, almost candy looking. But yeah, once we dry it, then we'll be able to smoke it. So we're just going to continue rinsing these salmon pieces. Okay, so we're getting our trays ready. So we're going to just put a little bit of oil wiped onto the grill just so that the salmon doesn't stick to the grill while it's drying. So we're going to do that. And then we're gonna just lightly dry the pieces of salmon with some paper towel just to get any excess moisture off. And then we'll just place them on the oiled rack. So the first batch of salmon we dried in the fridge for several hours, and then we left it out on the counter at room temperature for another little bit just to get that pellicle or that tackiness formed on the surface of the salmon. Okay, so here's the salmon that's now on the drying racks. We've got 2 different varieties here. We did maple cinnamon bourbon flavor at the back, and these ones are barbecue. So we've just put them on the drying racks. They need to dry for a few hours, maybe 4 hours or so. And once they're dry and they have that tacky surface on them, then they'll be ready to smoke. So we're gonna be making a maple bourbon glaze for the maple cinnamon bourbon flavor of a smoked salmon. So is that 1 ounce?
2 ounce.
2 ounces of maple syrup. 2 ounces of the bourbon whiskey. We're using Jim Beam. Okay, so we have the pot on the burner. We have it on low to medium temperature, and we're just gonna try and reduce it so it's just a thicker glaze to brush on the salmon. So it's starting to reduce. Got it on just like a low temperature. Just let that reduce out till it's about half of its original volume, and it's just a thicker syrup. Okay, so the glaze looks like it's ready. It's pretty bubbly right now, but it's reduced down quite low, so it's getting more syrupy. So we're gonna let that cool, I think.
Yeah, we're gonna add, once it's cool, we'll add some cinnamon to see what.
All right.
We're trying to reduce by half.
Okay, so we started with 4 ounces of liquid, and we're gonna see how much we have now. Perfect, so it's reduced by half. We now have 2 ounces. That's a 2-ounce shot glass.
Yeah, so that's like an ounce and a half.
So we've reduced the liquid by half. So we're gonna use that as our finishing syrup. So we tasted the maple bourbon syrup, and it's very nice tasting. It's just sweet. It's not like an alcohol-y taste anymore. So we're just gonna add a little bit of cinnamon into there to flavor it.
An hour, I think hour and a half.
Okay, so we started this about an hour and a half ago. So we're using cherry chips, I think.
Yeah.
Yep, okay, cherry wood chips. And
We'll have to dump that in.
it's smoking, it's got a drip tray. Okay. Okay, so with our smoker, we have to keep refilling the pan with new wood chips because they burn up. Are they totally gone?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
No, well, there's that. I just threw them over there.
Okay, so we're putting some more cherry wood chips in the smoker.
Yeah, it'll be the last round.
And then we're gonna continue smoking the salmon
Yeah.
for roughly, what, 4 hours in total?
Yeah, it's probably another half hour smoking or so.
All right.
Say that.
Okay, so we ended up reducing our syrup a little bit more so that there was close to just 1 ounce of liquid after. So that it was a little thicker and able to brush on a little bit better.
Yeah, so it doesn't run off as much.
Okay, so now we're just gonna put a little coating of the syrup on the salmon and while we continue smoking it. Okay, and now we're gonna add a little bit of freshly cracked black pepper on top. And we'll put it back into smoke.
Another 40 minutes.
So we took the salmon out of the smoker and it was still a little moist, so we decided to throw it in the oven at 200 degrees for about another 40 minutes just to dry it out a little more. But you can see it looks really good, tastes really good. So I think this batch is done. We're gonna cool it and then we're gonna package it up. This is the maple cinnamon bourbon flavor. Okay, so we're just finishing off this batch, which we smoked for about 4 hours and then we dried in the oven for 40 minutes or so, and now we're just finishing putting on some of the syrup, maple cinnamon bourbon syrup, and now we're vacuum packing it. So we just made little bags and we've got our vacuum sealer and just making some little bags of the smoked salmon. Looks pretty good.